Can a team betray its own driver in search of a world championship? What if that pilot is your young, carefully cultivated gem? What Mark Webber has revealed after Abu Dhabi 2025 is more than an accusation. It is a bomb that could dismantle McLaren from within. Stay, because this changes everything. Nobody saw it coming. For much of the 2025 season, Oscar Piastri was not only a fulfilled promise, but the driver who was challenging the giants of Formula One. With precise, mature, error-free driving and a car that seemed tailor-made for him, the Australian led the championship at mid-season. But everything changed. From one moment to the next, his performance began to drop inexplicably. And it wasn't a drop in form. What happened, according to Mark Webber, was calculated sabotage. Piastri's entourage began to notice small, almost imperceptible details, which together gave rise to great suspicion. First was the tire data. According to Webber, Oscar engineers received inflated information about the degradation, raising a false alarm about cliff edges, the critical points where tires abruptly lose performance. This information forced the driver to adopt a conservative style, turning up to half a second per lap slower than the actual pace the car could offer. A difference that, in Formula One, is not just a statistic. It is the border between victory and irrelevance. In parallel, pre-race strategy meetings began to take on a strange tone. Piastri, who until then had received minute details of possible stopping windows, expected moves of rivals and undercut scenarios, began to notice gaps. Critical information that simply wasn't mentioned. Details that, hours later, were proven to be vital for the development of the race. Meanwhile, Norris, according to sources close to the team, had full access to the strategic landscape. This is not a simple difference in approach. It is an asymmetry of information within the same box. And in modern F1, where strategic decisions are made by the thousands, these types of forgetfulness are not innocent mistakes. They are hidden knives. But the most telling came in real-time career decisions. Piastri was called to the pits at times where common sense indicated otherwise. Stops that threw him into dense traffic, where he had to lose time behind slower cars, while Norris was left in clean air. On other occasions, the objective seemed clear: block Lando's direct rivals, sacrificing Oscar's track position to benefit the other McLaren car. Alterations in fuel loads are even mentioned. Although this cannot be officially confirmed, several technical sources indicate that at key moments, Piastri's car had a higher fuel load at the start of qualifying or the race. That left it no room to activate more aggressive engine modes, and limited its ability to defend or attack. Technically, it was like running with an invisible shackle. All of this may sound like a conspiracy theory if analyzed in isolation. But when the pieces fit together with surgical precision, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. It is a sabotage that is not carried out with obvious errors, but with silences. With technical decisions that seem justified, but that together undermine the competitiveness of a driver who came to be world champion. Webber called it systematic undermining. And that phrase resonates as a devastating accusation, because it does not refer to a single moment, but to a sustained, progressive strategy that sought to break the career of its own driver from within. There are no cartoonish villains here. Nobody has come out publicly to acknowledge anything. But the team's thunderous silence after Webber's statements is a sign that something at least is not right. And what makes this even more shocking is that McLaren, until now, was the great hope for an ethical, modern, meritocratic Formula One. If this case is confirmed, it would not only tarnish Norris' championship, but cast a shadow over an entire era of rebuilding at Woking. The invisible deception. This is how this first act is best described. Because it was not a software error, nor a broken part. It was something much more sophisticated and, for that reason, more dangerous. A perfectly oiled machine working against one of its own brightest components. What makes this scandal transcend the category of a simple internal conflict is the way in which silence became the protagonist. Because, after Webber's accusations, McLaren did not respond with the forcefulness that would be expected from an organization accused of manipulation and favoritism. There was no clear denial, nor an opening to transparency. Just a tense, carefully choreographed calm. And that lack of response was, in itself, a statement. Andrea Stella, director of the team, was forced to respond in a subsequent conference, but his message was so institutional that it only fueled distrust. We have two incredible drivers and personalized strategies to maximize their opportunities, he said. But by that time, the word personalized was perceived as a covert synonym for unbalanced. The emotional impact within the team was not minor. According to leaks from the technical environment, Some engineers who worked directly with Piastri began to express doubts about the decisions made by the race direction. There were no open confrontations, but there were uncomfortable internal conversations. The cohesion that had been the basis of McLaren's success in 2024 was beginning to crack. And all this occurs in a particularly delicate context. McLaren had just achieved one of its most successful seasons in decades. Norris' title was not only a sporting achievement, it was a perfect narrative for marketing, for sponsors, for the team's global image. A young driver trained at home who defeats Verstappen in the last race of the year. But when that victory begins to be questioned by internal shadows, it stops being a triumph. It becomes a contaminated story. In that collective silence, the one who loses the most is Oscar. Not because of what is said, but because of what he does not dare to say. Because he is caught between two fires. His contractual loyalty to McLaren and the growing evidence that he has been used as a tool in a double-edged operation. In a category where golden years can evaporate in a season, every race behind is not just a loss, it's a missed opportunity that doesn't come back. And in the midst of all this, Lando Norris remains silent. He has not made direct statements on the subject. He has not denied or confirmed anything. He has not defended his partner either. And that void in the symbolic universe of Formula One weighs more than any word. Because when the cleanliness of your title is called into question and you choose not to speak, your image is subject to public interpretation. And the public in this sport is ruthless with idols who fall into suspicion. The fall of silence is not only the public exposure of an internal fracture. It is the revelation of a system that, in its desire to win, could have crossed the lines that separated it from sports ethics. The paddock knows it. The press senses it. The fans smell it. And McLaren so far only looks the other way. In Formula One, time is the most scarce and valuable resource. A poorly managed season not only destroys the present, but also compromises the future. And in McLaren's case, the consequences of this internal conflict already feel like an existential threat. Because the damage caused by the bomb dropped by Mark Webber is not limited to what happened in Abu Dhabi. It is a shock wave that can break all the scaffolding that the team has built since its technical rebirth. Oscar Piastri is not just any driver. He is not a second sword, nor another promising young man. It is one of the most coveted assets in the paddock. A talent precisely molded from the youth ranks, champion of Formula 3 and Formula 2 in his debut year, and now established as a potential world champion. Teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin don't need excuses to start moving their pieces, and this internal fracture at McLaren gives them a golden opportunity. Lando Norris, the current world champion, would not emerge unscathed either. His victory, in theory clean and deserved, would be tainted by permanent suspicion. It will not matter that he was not directly responsible for any of the decisions discussed. In the collective imagination, his title could go down in history as one won under a shadow. And if his career is marked by that stain, the opportunities of becoming a unanimous figure like Hamilton or Verstappen could disappear. Furthermore, this scandal comes at a particularly fragile time for McLaren. Although the MCL 39 has proven to be one of the fastest cars on the grid, even superior to Red Bull on mixed circuits, rumors of internal tensions have begun to make noise at the Woking plant. Some key engineers who worked on the development of the 2025 car are already on the radar of rival teams. And when a high-performance structure loses emotional stability, the brain drain is a matter of time. Oscar Piastri does not need to be the protagonist of a scandal to be a legitimate protagonist of this era. His talent has already placed him in that position. But what happens in the coming months will define much more than its immediate future. It will determine how the history of Formula One will remember him, as a victim silenced by internal politics, or as the driver who knew how to resist and reinvent himself outside of a structure that did not respect him. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.